Okay, so Shift is a new programming language developed by the Apple for developing their native applications, OS X and the OS X and the iOS applications. Shift adapts the basics of C without constraints of the C capability. That means Shift doesn't support what? Pointers. So Shift is going to use the same runtime mechanism which is used by the Objective-C. You don't think that Shift is completely new. Shift is completely going to use the Objective-C library and its framework. Top of that one, it use its own syntax. Then if you consider the features, safe programming pattern, modern programming feature, seamless access to existing Cocoa framework, and the procedure and object-oriented programming language both can be supported. So if you want to develop a application based on only procedure language, you can follow the procedure language, or if you want to go with the object orientation, you can go with the object orientation. It doesn't need any separate library which use actual libraries which are implemented by the Objective-C. Then current version is a 5.2. The first version was released in 2014, that is a 1.0. So actual development is started from the Shift, that is around 2015 mid or 2016 startup, which version 2.0 itself. Then about the playground is a tool of the Xcode where instantly if you are implemented any logic, instantly it will compile and generate the output that is going to call as a playground. So generally this playground is required if you are going to, if you don't want to compile your entire project, a small piece of the logic if you want to execute, just open the playground and you can run the playground. Instantly you will get the output in the playground. And we discussing about the variables and the constants. So in Shift, if you want to define any variables, you have to use a var keyword. If you want to create a constant type, then you have to create a let keyword. So in order to create the variable, we no need to specify any kind of data type, because Shift having the ability to determine what type of variable it is created based on the value you assign. So whenever you are assigning a value to a particular variable, automatically it is going to determine what type of variable depends on the value. So third point, if you consider, the Shift compiler has a feature called infrared typing to automatically predicate the type of the variable by values assigned. So explicitly we no need to assign the data type when you are creating. So if you still want to go with the data type, then you have to create var or let variable name colon, then the type of the variable equal to value. Okay, and here there is another concept is there which is called type checking. Type checking in the sense, simply, if I declare a variable called integer, I can't assign the value float. That means one type, if you declare a variable, another type you can't assign. That is type checking always. So it is generated a compilation error. Then, so these are the basic things. If you consider yesterday topic, what is the difference between var and let? Var used for creating a variable, whereas a let use it for creating a constant. So if the variable is a constant, you can't modify the value, you can't increment, you can't decrement, you can't change the value. But if it is a variable, you can change the value. What is a type safe in Shift? So it is a standard question actually. What is a type safety in Shift mean? After creating a variable, if you are assigning a different type of data, then Shift is going to generate a compilation error. So that compilation error itself is going to call type safety. That means depends on the type, similar kind of data required to assign. Other data if you are trying to assign, then it will generate the error that is going to call as a type safety. Then type interface. Type interface in the sense, so it is the ability to determine what type of variable it is created based on the value. It is going to call type interface. Okay, then continuation of yesterday topic, we will go with the next one, data types. So if you remember the yesterday session, I was said that Shift is going to support best of C and some Objective C functionality. In the similar fashion, Okay, so Swift is going to support best of C and Objective C functionality. So best of C in the sense C related few concepts are going to support it except the pointer elimination and the Objective C. So when you consider the data type, so what is the meaning of data type? Data type is nothing but which is going to indicate to the compiler what type of data I'm going to store in that particular variable, and it is going to support all the standard data types. Swift offers the programmer a wide range of built-in variables as well as user-defined types. So we have some specific type which is required for the development. Apart from that, we have some basic data types. So if you consider the basic data type, int or uint. So either integer variable or the uint variable. So this is used to hold the numbers which doesn't have any fractional part, and you can use in these things in the two format, either is a 32-bit format or 64-bit format. That means what? Let's say if your system has the compatibility of the 64-bit processor, then the integer will created by default 64-bit integer. If your processor having the ability of 32-bit integer, then it's going to create 32-bit integer. Then one more question. Depends on the device. Let's say I'm using iPhone 5 series, iPhone 6 series. Those are compatible to 32-bit only. That means if I'm going to deploy a application on 32-bit processor, then my integer size will be considered as only 32-bit data. If I'm going to deploy the same application on the high-end devices like iPhone 8, iPhone X, or iPhone 11, then iPhone Max, any whatever may be, then it is going to take 64-bit size. That means it's completely hardware dependent. So whenever you created integer or uinteger, depends on your hardware compatibility, compiler will be generated the specific size. If it is a 32-bit compiler up to iPhone 6, up to iPhone 6 or 7, not sure, I will check. So it has the 32-bit compatibility. High-end devices 8X and Max, whatever the next 11 series is there, you have the 64-bit processor, so it will generate at 16-bit. And again, int has the two capability, sign or unsigned, negative, positive, whereas uint is strictly for only positive data. So you have int 8, you have int 16, you have int 32, you have int 64. By default it will take 64. Got my point? So integer has a different variation. Int 8 is there, int 16 is there, int 32 is there, int 64 is there. Similar fashion, uint 8-bit will be there, uint 16-bit will be there, uint 32-bit will be there, uint 64 is there. These are required when you are developing a specific hardware related sizes. Otherwise, normally you can use int or uint. The second one is a float type. So it's a float in the sense simply it can be say it can maintain the fractional part, but float is always restricted to 32-bit. So this is used to represent a 32-bit floating point number and the number with the smaller decimal points. So if you have a high range floating data, then you should go for what? Double. So double, this is used to represent the 64-bit floating point number and use it when the floating point value will be large. So float and double, simple, consider 32-bit small data, floating data. If you are going to store, then you can go for this one. Long information, if you are going to maintain, then go for the double. Int, uint, different variation, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. Float, only one variation, 32-bit float value. Double has only one variation, 64-bit float data. Then bool. So this is represent the boolean value. Boolean value in the sense what? Either true, either false. So it can maintain only two values, either true, either false. Then string. This is in order to collection of string means nothing but it is a collection of character. So if you want to store multiple characters, collection of characters, then you have to go for the string. There is a data type called string which maintains the collection of characters. Then character. This is a single character string literal. So if you remember traditional C and C++ programming, string means we will represent in double quotes, whereas a character means we will represent single quote. But in Shift, even though it is a character, even though it is a string, you should be represent in the form of what? double quotes only. This is only the condition you have to consider when you consider the shift related string and character. Generally in the traditional C and C++, string and character has a differentiate. Characters are going to represent in single quotes, whereas the string are going to represent in the double quotes. But in shift, string and character both must be represented in the form of what? Double quotes only. Then optional. So this is not actually the data type. Optional in the sense this represent a variable that can be hold either value, either nil value. So if I'm creating a variable and I specified it is a optional type, then that optional type can be maintained two values. Either it can be maintained the nil value, either it can be maintained the actual data. That is going to call as a optional. Then the tuple. Tuple in the sense this is used to group multiple values. Let's say like we have array. Actually array is going to maintain the multiple data type, multiple type similar values, but tuple is a different approach. So tuples are going to use to maintain the multiple values in a single component. I will show you how we are going to use. Okay, so let's dig into the code and check how these are going to work. Okay, so everyone has Xcode?
Yes.
I think someone, I think, let me find out someone. Okay, if everyone has the Xcode, that's fine. If you don't have the Xcode now, you can go with, I think I was heard from some guy who doesn't have the Xcode now. So if you don't have the Xcode, you can use this online compiler also if you don't have the Xcode. Let me charge. Okay, so simply open the Xcode. Just go to your start tab. You can say it's a search bar or the spotlight. Go to the spotlight. Just say open the Xcode. Okay, so I think you can see my screen, right? Xcode window. So let's go. So here in the Xcode, you have three different options. Get start with the playground, get start with the Xcode project, clone the existing. Go for the first option and give the name called data type playground and create. Okay, so UI kit doesn't require. Go with foundation and remove the code. Okay, so let variable naming conversion. So whenever we are creating a variable in Shift, we are going to use a camel conversion. Camel conversion in the sense the first character must be in the lower. Every subsequent word should be there. First character should be the lowercase, and every subsequent word related the first character should be going uppercase. That is called camel conversion. Snake case are going to use for the shifting. Snake case generally going to use for the scripting languages, not in the programming. In the snake case, every subsequent word is going to separated by the underscore. That is only the difference. So let a short value, then colon, see int. So how many variations are there? You can check. Int, int 8, int 16, int 32, int 64. You decide what kind of variable you need according to that one. You can. I will take, right. So I created a let value. So let in the sense it's something like it's defined. Then var a int value where I'm creating int. Okay, one is a 8-bit, another one is an integer. Then I will say print a short value dot I don't think what's wrong with this one. So if I executed this one, the constant used, let me pause. Okay, what I will do now, I will say 128. So see, it is saying that integer literal 128 overflows when the short is int 8, because when you say integer 8, that is 8-bit compactability. So the 8-bit compactability, the maximum range is from what? Minus 128 to 127 only. So if you have literally going to store the value in between this range, then only you have to go. So if you are storing 128, it doesn't suits that value, then so I'm storing 128, then 127, then I got 127. Let's say this one. Print int value. see what it is saying, that variable a int value used before initialized. That means I am not initialized, so simply I can say int value equals to 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Sir, it is not rendering actually.
Oh, sorry, man. Now,
Yeah, now it's fine.
okay.
Yes.
See what I'm trying to do here. I'm storing like a short value has a int 128. It is not compactable. It says integer literal 128 overflow when stored into int 8, because int 8 capability is minus 128 to 127. So keep in mind that whatever the value you are going to store, that value has a proper range or not. So maximum positive data it supports 127. Now we are storing 128, and the compiler straightforward it is giving the error, it is not compactable. This is something called, which is not exist in any other languages except in the Swift. So Swift straight away in the compilation time only, it is saying what's possible, what not possible. So I'm converting into 127, then it is working. Now if I run, I got the error with the second variable. Second variable saying that a int value, variable a int value used before being initialized, because here we don't have any initialization. So without initialization, if we are using a variable, still it gives error, because if you follow the traditional C and C++, when you are going to create a variable, by default it has some garbage value, and when you are printing the data, it prints the garbage value. But in Shift, even though you created a variable, don't think it has a default garbage value and the garbage value will print it. It never going to print any garbage value. It is straight away it is going to give the error called variable a int value used before being initialized. So simply say a int value equals to something like this. And if you see, the value is printed properly. Whatever the value I'm printed, same long value is there. Then let a float value, I can say is a float type variations, and I can give the data like 12.34, where a double value equals to, give the type called double, then print float value colon of a float value. Okay, and then print something simply double value of something called a double value. Right. Then if you want to create a boolean variable, let is session going bool equals to true, then say session is going, then I will say is session going. Okay, then let my website of string equals to tutorial.com, then say print website name. So format specifiers are not there, so you have to do like this, my website. Right. Let my code of character equals to C. Then print character code of my code. This is character. See, perfect. In the right side you can check, left side you can check, on the bottom of console also you can check everything whatever it's printed. Any doubt? You want to do anything in the code? Let me know. We can change and we can play around this code. Any doubt on these things? I don't think so. It's complicated, just for understanding purpose. So you can create int, float, double, or string. So here you can consider it's actually character type, but still I'm managing in the double quotes. And here it is a string type where I'm giving everything in the double quotes. So literally this is called string literal. So whenever you are going to store the character type, it is going to call the string literal, and when you are going to store collection of character, it is a string type. So string or character, it doesn't have anything. And here, let's see one particular thing. I say character and I will say CBC. Then compile the code. See what's happening? Cannot convert the value of type string specified by the character. It's a type checking. See, perfect type checking. When you say character, this variable capability to maintain only one value, one character, whereas I'm assigning multiple character and state away, my compiler says it's wrong. Don't do like this. So if it is a character means its capability to maintain only one value. Let's say I'm maintaining two values, then also same thing. I hope it's clear. So if you are maintaining a single character, then you have to go for the string literal. So how to create the string literal in Swift? By using what? Character type. So string literals are going to created by using the character type, whereas a string is going to created by the string, and the rest of things same. Bool type is a boolean, either true, either false. Now if I say false and if I run, then session is going false. So can I assign 0, 1 here? So generally true false means true means 1, false means 0. Let's say try 1. Then compile. It cannot convert the value of type int to specified type bool. Got my point? So hope so. This is gonna give you state away logics. Now it's true. Okay. Next. Typecasting is a small topic. Maybe you know. Typecasting means what? Converting one data type to another data type. Converting one type to another type is called typecasting. Similar standard approach you can create. So what is the syntax means? Let's say var variable data type equals to value. Okay, then I can say something like data type 1 and var variable 2 of data type 2 equals to data type 2 of variable 1. Okay, let's see practically. Let type 1 of integer equals to 12. Let type 2 of double equals to double of type 1. Print type 1 of type 1 type 2 of type 2. So 12, 12.0. Same standard syntax. Let's say let string 1 of character equals to C. Now let string 2 of string equals to string of string 1. I think better to give a proper name. Character type 1. Character type is converted into string type, then print of string type of string 2, or say string type, then string type. See, here I was created the, what is that, integer to double type, whereas here I was converted a character into the string type. So whenever you are going to convert the type casting, so where or let variable 1 data type 1 equal to value, where variable 2 data type equals to data type 2 of variable 1, same thing. So here is a first type integer double, so data type parenthesis gives the second type, so automatically it is going to convert according to that one. Done?
Yes.
Any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Ramesh, Puneet.
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. Let's say continuation. So here we've seen some basic things: bool, string, character, and optional. Optional is a big topic, that's why I was not started. Can we see about the tuples? So tuples in the sense what? Multiple values, right? Let's continue off that code. Let test tuple equals to 12. This is going to call as a tuple. So variable or var, just it maximum the people will go for the constant. Let test tuple 12 Balu tutorial something. Okay, then what's gonna happen here? How to access? Because this tuple is maintaining the multiple values. How many values are there right now? 3 values are there. Then how I have to access this tuple? In the sense, so whenever you given the multiple variables in the parentheses, the tuples are going to access using its position. So it is a position number 1, that means 0 index. Okay, then say print test tuple. See, if you see in the syntax, test tuple, what are the data are available? String, integer, string. So if you see in here, integer, string, and double. So this tuple has the 3 different values: integer, string, tuple. Position 1, that is 0 index, is an integer. Position 1, that is a string. Position 2, that is a double. So that is the advantage of using the tuples. So test tuple dot 0, first thing. Test tuple dot 1, second one. Test tuple dot 2, third one. So not only these things, anything you can maintain. Anything you can maintain. If you see in here, 12 Balu tutorial 12.47. This is going to call as what? Tuples.
Why do we have that option self when we print out the tuple? Test tuple 0, then we have self there.
Dot 0. Where is
Yeah,
that?
instead of 0, you can print it as self.
Everything, na?
Yeah, yeah.
See here. I hope so. Your doubt is clear. Test tuple dot self means it's printed all the components in single shot.
Okay.
Got the point? But generally we are not going to use this one, because tuples are going to use something like, okay, I will give the use case. In C, Objective C, or C++, any function can return only one value. When you are using the
Correct.
functions in the old, any function returns only one value. But there are some specific scenarios are there where I want to return the multiple values. So if you want to return the multiple values in the old traditional, what's going to happen? You have to create a static member in your function, and you have to return the address of that static member or array of address where you can give the multiple values. But Swift doesn't have the pointer compatibility. That means that particular approach is completely different here. So generally in C, C++ or Objective-C, functions are allowed to return only one value. If you require to return the multiple values from a function, then that function has to be written the address of a reference, and which can be the multiple values. But here in Shift, we don't have the pointer compatibility. That's why if the functions required to return the multiple values, the best solution, the function should return the tuples. When the function returns the tuple, you receive the data from the tuple, and the tuple dot indexes, if you give, then the corresponding value you will get one advantage. Second one, if you are working with old traditional programming language, even though functions are returning the multiple values, it can return only the similar data type. It can't return the different data type. But here the tuples can maintain the different kind of data values, and you can collect the data according to your requirement. This is the advantage which are not exist in other languages. Tuples can maintain the generic values and tuple can return the multiple values. In Shift, it is the best concept. We will use this one in the iOS development itself. So let's commit out this line and go with the standard one. Test tuple dot index 0. Finish.
Yes.
Now the thing is optional. So basic data types, these are the basic. We are not going to use anything else. Tuples. Now tuples are done. Now another topic is the type alias. Uh, Type alias, you remember type def in C and C++? Type def is another keyword is there. So what is the
Yes.
type def? It's create a alias name. In the same way in Shift also we have a type called type alias. So what is this type alias? Nothing but it will create a different name. So by using type alias, we can create a new name for existing type using the type alias. So simply it is called nickname. Generally, when you are working with the user-defined data type, user-defined data types having the big names. So when the user-defined data types having the big name, then if you want to make a short name, you can use a type alias. It's a straight away concept, but not gonna use that frequently. So simply I can say type alias, type name, something called my integer, whereas a type is int64. And what I can do, var of my int64 is my int. See here, if you observe the things, this is what? Int64. So whatever I created, int64, I am giving a nickname. I am giving a nickname, and my nickname will always refers that particular type. Generally, we should not use like this. Just for the syntax purpose, I am giving like this. So generally, we are going to use this one for the user-defined data type when we have the structure name like big names. So type alias going to use like this. So simply type alias. That's it. So I was created a dummy name, or you can say I'm created a nickname called my integer for the type called int64. So my integer 64 is reference to my int. That's it. And if you maintain the value, and that value also you can print my int. That's it.
One question.
Yes.
How do we get the address for all this?
No. I told you
We
right.
can't.
Pointers are completely eliminated.
Okay.
So at the time of debugging, you can see the reference where this is pointing actually, but practically you don't have access because see, whenever there is a direct access of any reference, then there is a more risk in the application. It can be corrupt the applications. So if you know the address, let's say if I given the grant accessing a address, and by using that address you are changing explicitly, then application can crash. So it's a strictly not allowed in Swift. You can't apply any pointer related concept here. That means storing the address, accessing the address, or manipulating the addresses are completely restricted. But you can see the reference in the debugging mode, and you can check that which reference is pointing to where. That's it. But except that one, explicitly you can't access those addresses. Okay. So these things are basic things. Let me close this one because I want to go next one. Working with optionals. This is very, very important topic in entire iOS application. Without this one, we can't write the code. So working with optional. So what does means optional? Either or not. Similar kind of concept. So shift optional is a very important underlying concept in the shift programming. Optional is something that you will dealing with lot in the shift development. I said that everywhere this optional is present. Without optional, no coding at all. Then what is that? Shift optional variable or constant can contain a value or a nil value. That means whenever you created a optional variable, that optional variable can contains a value or it can be the nil. So other than nil means there is no data, value means there is a value. That's it. Either nil, either value. Then how to create the things? An optional variable or constant declaration required a question mark after the type. So after the type you need what? After the type you need what? Simply question mark. So whenever you are working with the shift, at end of the data type, if you constructed a question mark, then that is going to treat it like what? Optional. So an optional variable or constant declare required a question mark after the type. A declaration of optional variable constant is given below. Let's enter into the code. So any optional type, int question mark or string question mark, is not same as int or string. So what does mean here? Whenever you given a question mark at end of the data type, it is considered as what? Optional type. And these are int string. So what I'm trying to say here, int question mark and int both are not same. Int question mark is the optional. That means it can have the integer value or it can have a nil value. But if you consider int 100%, there should be an integer value. This is a concept. String question mark, optional string, string. So optional string in the sense this string can have the data or this can be the nil. But here 100% that string must be have the data. So both are not at all same. So when you are working with the optional type and when you are working with the non-optional type, don't think both are same. Int question mark and int is different. String question mark and string is entered different. So therefore an optional type cannot be interacted with a normal type. This is only the condition. When you created an optional variable, it can't interact directly with another variable. So if it is a optional, it can interact with the optional variable only. In order to interact an optional variable with non-optional variable, you have to do some kind of code specially. Shift optional unwrapping. So when you created a variable optional, you don't have the access directly. In order to access the variable, we have to unwrap it. So there are two kind of unwrapping will be there. So shift optional variable unwrapping is used to convert an optional type into the normal type. I said clearly. So int question mark or int can't be accessed directly. So in order to convert one optional variable into the normal variable, you should be unwrap that particular value. There are two types of unwrapping will be there. One is called forced unwrapping and another one is going to call optional unwrapping, safe to do. So forced unwrapping, risk, don't do, I will tell you what's wrong. Whereas optional unwrapping, safe to do, this is recommended. But better than this, I will discuss in the next session. Most probably, we need other topics like collections type. If we know, then we can give you the better opportunity how we are dealing with the shift optionals. Can we go into coding?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now, again, Xcode. Try to create a new playground. Optional. So import keyword which used to import any kind of frameworks. Foundation. Remove. So previous sessions we created a variable like this, okay? Where let's say my integer colon int question mark. So if you created like this, this is non-optional value. Must be value should be present. The value must be present. If you created like this, this is optional. Then where my value of int equals to 13 or 10. Then where of result, simple basic arithmetic I am doing, of int equals to 0, right? Then let's say try to do something. Result equals to my value plus my integer. So if you are concentrating on this statement, what I am trying to do here, so I am trying to add one integer optional variable with one normal variable. Is it possible? Is it possible? I clearly mentioned when you are working with
Not
the
possible.
optional, yes, when you are working with the optional, don't treat optional variables are same as a normal variable. Don't treat optional variables are same as a normal variable. Optional variables are not same as a normal variable. So I can't add integer and int directly. So it is going to give the error. So you can't unwrap. It's error. So this is the error message it is giving. I can't do like this. Okay, fine. I can't do. Then what is the way to do? Then the way to do is like result equals to my value plus my integer. Then here we have to give exclamation mark. So whenever you added a, sorry, not here, here. Whenever you added a exclamation mark, that means you are forcing to pick the data. You are forcing to pick the data. That means simply it is saying pick the value. Now what I am trying to do here, my integer. It's called force unwrapping. Risk to do. Why it's a risk to do? Are you assign any value in my integer?
No.
What is my integer here? Optional. So what does means optional? Either it can be nil, either it can be value. And here what you are trying to do, you are forcing to pick the value, and there is no value. So what's gonna happen? See?
Crash.
So if it is an actual application, straight away application will crash. It is a playground, that's why it is saying fatal error, unexpected, found nil while unwrapping an optional value. So always risk. So whenever you created a variable has optional type, there is a risk of what crash, because optional variable either can maintain the value or it can be nil. Now I got the exceptional crash here because it is a nil data. Then so let's say I am assigning a value to my integer equals to 20. Now data is there. Then the result equals to my value plus my integer. Value is there. Now I'm commenting this statement. Now see what it is saying, that this is an optional value. You can't treat this optional value as a normal. So it must be required to unwrap. Now I will unwrap it. Is it works? See, I got 30, sum of these two. That's fine. But still it is a risk, because just before you assign the value and still it's risk. Then what is the process? Okay. So this is called force unwrapping. Force unwrapping not at all recommended. So we have a alternate another called optional unwrapping. Safe to do. What is this optional unwrapping and how we are going to do this optional unwrapping means, so what I am trying to do here, if my integer is not equals to nil, then my result equals to my integer plus value, right? My value. And here I know when this condition is satisfied, it's not nil. Can I save to unwrap means? Yes, I can. Else print
Balu, 1 minute. My Xcode looks like crashed. It's taking a lot of time to respond.
Okay.
Let me kill it. It's not responding.
Yeah, kill that. Don't try to, open multiple apps. Just must and should run the go-to meeting tool and your Xcode only. Don't try to use multiple versions because when you are using the Windows, it lack of memory, it loads lot of resources. Done?
Done.
Yes.
Ramesh,
Yes, sir.
okay.
1 minute. 1 minute.
So every time we need to use optional unwrapping
Yes,
while developing the app.
yes. If your variable is the optional type 100%, but not this kind of approach. This is one alternate approach of this one. So standard approach I will show you later because there is another concept called late binding, optional binding. So I will tell you that optional binding with the help of some other concept actually. Most probably tomorrow session I am going to cover that one because I need control flow statements for that one. Like looping I need the collection type. So I'm just keeping the safe way. But this is also the safe way to do. So before accessing, that means this statement is very important. This particular statement is important. Before trying to do like this, make sure the value should be not nil. That is a concept. So before forcing to bring the data from an optional variable, make sure that that particular variable is not having a nil value. That is a concept actually. Okay.
Okay.
So I hope so. This is fine. Then we'll go continuation. Then. So I was created integer, like not only this one, there are the different approaches. Let's continue with the strings. Let give it the var first name string optional equals to then where last name string equals to tutorial. Then I will say where of result like this. So there are three variables are there: first name, last name, result. We have the result. Okay, let's say full name. So we have the first name as a string, optional string, and still it is initialized. So the meaning of this one, or if you compare with these two, then maybe you will understand better. So consider the second one first. So if you consider the second one, what does mean by this one? What does mean the second variable first? Then we'll discuss
So
about the
it
first one.
Compulsory value.
it has compulsory value which we cannot change
That
or
means
anything.
all are variables only, but the second variable where last name. So last name is a string, right? Is it optional string or the normal string?
Normal.
Normal string. That means we are indicating to the compiler last name must be exist. It can't be nil.
Nil.
Yes.
Last name can't be nil. Okay, then come to the first one. First name. What does mean? Like here I given string, here I given string optional. What does means? So here I am initializing the first name. First name is there, yes, but later maybe it can be nil. Deserved. So the meaning of this one, okay, now at this particular point, I have a data in that variable, but somehow in my logic execution, somehow in further logic execution, there is a possibility this variable can be get nil also. Okay, and this one, full name, the meaning of this one, it must be have data. It must be have data, and not required to do like this, but it's valid. Then print each thing. Print first name, print last name, print full name. Then it has the warnings. Expression implicitly forced for string to any. String to any, it's fine. These are the warnings. We can eliminate these warnings. But if you print so here if you see the output properly, this one printf of first name which is printed optional has Balu. Why it is printed as optional has Balu? Because whenever you are printing a optional data on the console without unwrapping, then it's trying to append optional. Even though tomorrow in iOS development also, if you are doing like that, so let's say there is a text field, is an optional text field, and there is a value called text. You are taking the first name from the text field, and without forcing the value, if you say pick the value, then still it will assign optional Balu. It's a risk. Don't try to do like this. So whenever you know this is the thing which is exists, then what you can do, simply you can check if first name not equals to nil, then you can force it. Fine. Last name. And if you see in the third one, full name is printed nil, because I said that the data is exist, but by default it is initialized with nil value. So by default it has nil value, right? Then what I'm going to do now here, first name not equals to nil, then I will say full name equals to first name plus, there is a space, plus last name, then print of full name. And this one you have to concentrate. I was said this value is non-optional, right? This the result you have to concentrate here. Guys, result you have to concentrate here. Optional Balu
Yes.
tutorial, but I am not given it is a optional, but still it is treated like a optional. What is wrong?
I think the first name is having the concept of optional.
But here I am already using the force unwrap, right?
No, even the full name is also optional.
But here I was given exclamation mark, right? That means it's not optional variable. When I give an exclamation mark at end of the data type, it's not optional variable. And here if I see in my result, it says optional. So what's wrong? Why it is created, why it is taken as an optional type when I say, okay, this is not optional data. So here I am not saying it's optional or by default is a normal. Here I am saying optional, but still here explicitly I said it's not optional variable, but still my compiler consider as a optional. Why? So straight away, nothing wrong here. When I say this is non-optional like this, then I must and should initialize the value. So here, if you consider the output is a nil output here, if you consider by default it has a nil value. Why it has by default nil value? Because the thing you are not initialized. You said it's non-optional, but it's not initialized. That's why it is giving the problem. Now what I'm trying to do now here, let's say equal to like this, empty string. Let's say I'm giving an empty string, and then check what's gonna happen. Full name, where we printed the full name. Full name, and here it is printed as a full name. By default is a nil. Right now it has an empty string, but still it is printed as this one. So it must be have data, but not required to do like this, but still it is valid. So standard syntax are either these two only. So like this particular syntax not gonna exist actually. This kind of syntax will exist with the IB outlets in normal scenario. When we are working with the controllers, I will tell you when this syntax will be exist. But for sure, don't try to use right away. Okay, just remove this one. Then make sure everything is fine. Here I got a empty string. Here I got result also. So there are different kind of approaches are there, but try to use these two approaches. So when you initialize like this and says optional, that means the variable is exist and somehow later it can be nil actually. And here last name is 100% exists where the full name is initialized, but it can be resolved with this one. So whenever you are trying to print a optional variable, then it is going to get what? So optional on console also. So from the string optional, if you are printing, try to force it to print the data. Otherwise, it's not going to work properly. So when you are working with the optional, make sure that try to write the nil check if it is the if it is optional, and before unwrapping make sure that the value is exists, then only try to access, otherwise application is going to crash. Finish?
Yes.
Any doubts?
Yes.
Yes.
No. Sorry.
Okay. So how to create a optional variable? In the sense, just place a question mark at end of the data type that became optional. So from optional variable, in order to access the data, we have to use exclamation mark. So generally they will ask the question in the beginning level, what is question mark, what is exclamation mark, what is the difference between question mark and exclamation mark? So question mark is called as a optional, whereas the exclamation mark is going to called as a unwrapping. So in order to work with the optional variable, or in order to access the data from the optional variable, we have to make sure to use the exclamation mark to access the data properly. But there is a huge risk of using the optional data because it can be the nil. So we have to make sure that check first. So in order to check, there is a force unwrapping is there. So directly using the exclamation mark without condition is called force unwrapping. Risk, don't try to do like that. Optional unwrapping means first check that that value is not nil, then try to access the data. Then what should be the next concepts? Tomorrow we are going to discuss control flow statements, only control flow statements along with this particular optionals. So control flow statement means, I think today's session you already seen some if else things. So apart from if else, we have like looping concepts. So tomorrow I'm targeting like introduce some collection types like arrays or dictionaries, sets, something like a user defined type, and along with some advanced concepts of optional. So most probably tomorrow we are going to cover entire control flow statements, all control flow statements, looping, switch statements, as well as few collection types. Few collection types in the sense, generally I'm going to introduce 3 types tomorrow itself. One is a string, literal, traveling through string. Today already we introduced string, right? Now tomorrow concept like how to travel within the string. Like string has a multiple data, I want to travel within the string. So within the string, array or dictionary, those things I will introduce tomorrow for that one. So you have any questions on these topics? Any general question also, it's fine, no problem.
One question.
Yeah.
Since you told me that for optional unwrapping, we